Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today's is a good one. We're going to talk about my favorite baits to use on the free rig. The free rig is a technique that's really starting to take the bass fishing world by storm. Over the last couple of years, it has really gotten some attention. There's a lot of people using it with a lot of success. And honestly, it generates those strikes. It allows you to present baits in a much more natural manner that the fish find hard to resist. Not only that, it allows you to present a weightless bait in a much deeper strike zone, which a lot of times we don't have the patience to do. So it really deserves the attention it's getting. And I've had some really good success with it over the last year or year and a half of fishing with it. And I've got some baits that work extremely well. I will say that if you're not using the right bait with the free rig, you don't get the same presentation out of it. So not all baits are made right, or not all baits are made for the free rig, but there are some characteristics of a bait that you want to look for. So that's what we're going to get into. I'll share all of the baits with you. For example, one bait that I really want to try in the free rig that I haven't received yet, and my latest order from Tackle Warehouse, is the Depths Bull Flat. I just did a video on it where I was pitching it as a Texas rig, and I had a lot of people tell me I needed to try that on the free rig. So I'm definitely going to try that when my Tackle Warehouse order comes in. And speaking of Tackle Warehouse, guys, if you are ordering tackle as well from Tackle Warehouse, please use my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link. It's in the description of the video. It's a great way to support the channel. And all of these baits, I believe, are going to be there if you're looking to purchase some. But the reality here is we're talking about the free rig and the best baits that work for that, the baits that I've had the most success with it. And just for those of you that don't know what the free rig is, it's a very simple concept. Basically, you're taking an unweighted plastic bait, putting it on whatever hook you want to choose to use, whether that's an EWG style. Some guys like to use straight shanks, some guys like to use worm hooks. Kind of depends on the bait that you're using. And then you've got a free swinging weight in front of it, with the idea being that when you pull this, you pull it through the water, the weight pulls up to the worm, and then as the bait stays high, your weight floats to the bottom, and then it allows your bait to float and glide and move freely, similar to kind of like a Carolina rig. The difference here is you have much better feel than you do with a Carolina rig. You're not necessarily just dragging on the bottom, and it's a very simple way to create that natural motion with removing the weight from the bait. So the free rig is just a very simple concept, but works great. You can use lots of different types of hooks, weights, whether you like just like a casting weight like this guy right here, or you want to open up a drop shot weight. You can use pretty much any form of a weight. The idea being that you want one that's more bottom heavy, because that will slide much more freely away from the bait as your bait stays higher after you pull it. So you're basically pulling it. When you pull it, your weight stays by the worm. You take some tension off your line, the weight moves away. In this case, the fluke glides freely. Very simple concept. You can switch weights really quickly to move from shallow water and fish it down into 30 feet of water if you want to. The bait that I've got here is just a Zoom Fluke. This is a really good free rig bait. Based on the way it's built, you can see that it just, it's a made for gliding through the water. It just is a darting bait. So this works really well on the free rig. It's one of my go-tos anytime I'm doing that. It's getting a lot of attention just as a straight Carolina rig bait too. If you go down to a lake like Sam Rayburn, people will look at you crazy if you don't have a Zoom Fluke tied on. So just a couple characteristics before I move on to the next bait. For me, what you're looking for is a bait that's made for gliding. If you put a bait on that's really got a lot of flappers and a lot of movement that creates resistance in the water, what's going to happen is when you pull that free rig, the bait's going to come up, those kickers going to kick in, and the bait's just going to settle right down. You don't get the same gliding motion. So you're looking for baits that have characteristics in them that will allow it to glide. Usually that means one side of the bait's going to be flat. Usually that means you're not talking about a lot of big kickers and more of a streamlined profile. That's generally what you're looking for in a good free rig bait, or any bait that you're looking to get to glide. So the Fluke is a great one. The next one that I really love is the Max Scent Creature Hog. This bait, as you can see, is flat. It's that beaver style bait. It just glides so well through the water. I've talked about making gliders out of these, and they just don't want to dive. I mean, so when you pull it, it just glide. I mean, it'll glide a couple of feet at times. It's pretty ridiculous. So that's the Max Scent Creature Hog. And along those same lines is just the old straight Beaver, the Reaction Innovation Beaver. This is another great sliding bait. If you want a little bit of a tip on this, you can tell in most cases you get a beaver where the little side cups are turned, is how they come. You will get more gliding motion if you have the cups facing down. So what you want is those little cups, you want them to be cupping towards the bottom. That will get them to glide more. If you have those facing up, it'll drive your bait down into the bottom. It makes a big difference. You'd be surprised how much that makes a difference. So most people would say that this is more of a finesse technique, but I can tell you where I'm having a lot of my really good success is deep grass lines. And if I'm fishing deep grass lines, I'm generally not going with a super small bait. So I've had a lot of luck on these guys right here. This is one of my favorites for fishing grass lines. This is just a Zoom Brush Hog. And again, I'm going to say the same thing with respect to getting them to glide. You want all of the flappers, so you can see these two side wings are kind of cupped down. You want those facing the bottom. But again, this bait, you'd look at it and say, well, it's got a ton of appendages. How does that bait glide? Well, I can assure you that nothing on here creates a lot of drag. Even these little twister tails at the bottom, they're just like plastic worm tails. They don't create much drag, but when you have giant flappers like that, that don't create any motion, they're just so good that they just cut right through the water. These little flappers are just kind of flapping in the behind it as it's creating some sort of like drag system. So you get no drag from the bait. It would be similar to like coasting behind a truck where you're getting better gas mileage because you're closer to the truck and you get that aerodynamic thing going on. I feel like that happens with these tails behind these big massive flappers as well. So you get no drag out of it. This is one of the best gliding baits on the market. The last one we've got here is just the Berkeley Speed Boss. Again, this is very similar to a Magnum Speedworm. It's a great bait. And again, it does not create the drag. These are not big flappers like you'd have on a big cross style creature bait. These are just little flappers that have real tight kick. And there's so much mass in the bait itself that it just pulls the flappers through the water column. So, another great choice on a free rig if you're looking to kind of fish some of those more power fishing areas. So brush piles, your weed lines, things like that, where you're not afraid to go with a bigger, bulkier bait. Do not overlook this guy right here. This is just the Speed Boss worm. Comes in a lot of different sizes, but I really like the bigger sized ones. I mean, this is the 6 3/4 inch one. Just much more mass and bulk, so you get a lot of that good gliding motion out of it. So next time you head out on the water, guys, you really should try this free rig. It generates a lot of strikes. You can change baits quick. You can change weights quick. You can fish from shallow to deep and cover a lot of different types of cover. It's a very good bait, and it deserves the attention it's getting. The biggest question a lot of people have are what baits to use, and that's why I'm sharing with you the ones that I've had a lot of success with. If you guys out there have some others that you've really done well with fishing on a free rig, please put it in the comment section so the rest of us can learn from you. Otherwise, guys, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you have not done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have another video coming out tomorrow.